So yes, if you want to reach your goal faster, you can go through his method. But if you want to have like a balance in your life, you can actually go for my method. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reacting to TikTok videos Personal Finance Edition. Okay, so the very first video, we're going to be reacting to Steve Financial Freedom on his take on how to become financially free.
Become financially free. First, I lived humbly and below my means. Yeah, below your means, cliche. Okay, second, I made more money by creating a side hustle. We're gonna say that, cliche. Okay, and third, I, invested your money in the stock market. First name Clit, last name Shay. Dude, I know it sounds cliche, but this is what a lot of self-millionaires did, and this is what I did as a public school math teacher for 7 years. Now that I'm financially free, I don't have to work, but now I choose to work, and I can now pursue my passions. Wow. Cliche.
So, what do you think?
Cliche. No, I was just kidding. What he say actually it's somewhat true. Also, it's more of the grinding and hustling your way towards to reach your goal. But I do find that personally, maybe this is just my own personal opinion, but I find I have to have like a work and life balance. It's not everything about work, hustle, hustle.
Yep.
If not, that would be a very sad and boring and monotonous life. So for me, I need to have like a little bit of fun stuff. For example, like hanging out with my friends or even going for the occasional badmintons and whatnot. So yes, if you want to reach your goal faster, you can go through his method. But if you want to have like a balance in your life, you can actually go for my method.
Yeah. So I think that's great, right? Because it's not always about the hustle. But specific to the video, I would say that, I actually want to comment on the other guy who kept saying cliche, right?
Yeah.
Because I think this is very apparent where people kind of know what they have to do already.
Yeah.
But they find that boring and they find that old-fashioned, let's call it. And that's why they use the word cliche, right? Because it's like, oh, I've heard this before, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that's where it gets interesting because... or at least interesting to me, because a lot of these people who know better, they don't want to listen, and they go on and do something. Maybe they go on and find a way to make so-called fast money, or do all these things. And it says a lot about like human beings, right? Because the simple, Warren Buffett calls it the 1 foot bar, right?
Yeah.
To jump over, they don't want, but they want to jump over the 10-foot bar. And I think this is a great video to show why.
I think cryptocurrency has become this sort of like a get rich quick kind of like
for a lot of
gains.
people.
Yeah, for a lot of people. Not only like crypto coins, it's like the NFTs and whatnot.
Yeah.
Personally, I still don't get NFTs. Sure. To me, it still looks like an image on a computer screen. It's like a JPEG. Yeah. But those kind of things can get you rich quick. And it's actually working for a lot of people. So
I think to your point, right, you're right. I mean, I'm a crypto investor as well, but I think part of the problem is that a lot of people got into wealth too quickly.
Yeah.
And especially if they had nothing before and suddenly they have like hundreds or thousands or millions in the bank, right? Then suddenly they start feeling like geniuses, but really they're not. And I think important to take note of as well is that a lot of times we hear what we call the survivors, we hear the success stories, right? The big question is, of the people who tried doing it, how many fail, how many succeed? And that's something people don't ask enough about, because when you are successful, a lot of people want to boast about it, to tell people how successful they are, they buy cars, they show off and things like that. But then the guys who failed, I know this because I have friends who I know lose a lot of money, but suddenly when you ask them about it, they're very harsh, about it. They look down, they look away, they continue eating their food. And I think that's a lot more common, way more common than people think. So, social media, all that needs to be I don't know whether it's a good thing for serious investors, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, this next video is about broke people, the difference between broke people and actually wealthy people. And this is by Mr. King Kang. So let's watch it.
A mansion. I don't have a supercar. I don't have designer clothes. But what I do have is $2 million worth of real estate that pays me 10 G's a month every single month, whether I work or I don't. You see, the goal is to get rich before you look rich. So get your mindset straight, get your money right, and you too, my friend, one day can become a millionaire.
Yeah, well, I think that it is true.
Yep.
It is absolutely true that, we talked about social media earlier on, right? People associate, one of the best things I ever heard about being a millionaire is this. When people say they want to be a millionaire, they don't mean accounting millionaire, meaning they have $1 million in net worth, right? What they actually mean is that they want to spend $1 million.
I see. Oh,
yeah, that's what people mean when they say I want to be a millionaire. For most people, right? It's what and it's a lot more subtle than you think, because we tend to associate money with the things that we can buy. For example, I'm sure you've felt this before, right? You buy a stock and then it drops by whatever percentage, and then let's say you drop 40K or 50K, right? You're down 40 to 50K. And what's the usual response? Oh my God, I just lost a car, for example.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or back in the day when I only had a little bit of money, right? And I left 500. I dropped 500 ringgit. And then in my head, I'm like, oh, that's 80 chicken rice,
Yeah.
So we all think very often about money in terms of what we can buy. Right. And I think that's not very healthy. But overall, his advice is correct. He doesn't have a house, doesn't have a supercar. And you need to get rich before you look rich. That said, it's also important to note that if you are someone who wants supercars, who want mansions, who want all these things, totally fine. At the end of the day, when you make money, sure, you may have billions, but what are you doing with that billions, right? And if having billions means that it allows you to buy your favorite supercar and enjoy it, that's totally fine. But the motivations for getting a car is important, right?
Yeah.
If you get a car because you have so much money and you just want to enjoy yourself, that's totally fine. But if you're getting a car to show off or to essentially have extrinsic validation, what we call, where you want validation from the outside, I don't think that's very healthy. Worse still is when you have to buy a car because you have to impress certain people. Maybe you're in a job where you have to get the car. And if you can't afford it, that's not going to be very fun. So I think, those are my thoughts. What are yours?
Personally, I'll say that what is your reason of, what's your end goal at the end of the day of getting rich? Are you trying to buy supercars, buy mansions, or trying to impress your friends or whatnot? Maybe that can be your end goal, but for me, personally, my end goal of getting rich is so that I can have a peace of mind. Yeah. It's so that I can actually do things that I like. And I'm not afraid that if, let's say, one day I lose my job, that I need to be worried and think about, hey, where am I going to get all these capital? I know that, since I have $1 million or $1 billion in my bank account, I am still okay.
Yeah. I think with regards to, let's say, cars I mentioned, because those are the two things that I mentioned, I just want to add, right, that I think if you are, let's say, someone who like cars, for example, and that means you love, you talk about the engines, you're a car nut.
Accessories.
I think that's totally, if you have the money and if it's within your budget and you're financially okay, I think you should be getting it. In fact, I would encourage you to get a supercar because that is something that kind of fulfills you. That's not about you impressing other people. It's just you really like cars. Same for mansions. I know people get bungalows or these big houses, not necessarily because they want to show people. Is that they like architecture, right? Maybe they have not been an architect their whole life. Maybe, let's say, they are a successful lawyer, but deep down they want to be an architect. They want to design something. They want to build something. In those cases, when they get the bungalow or the mansion, I think I would encourage them to get it because then it's like a project for them. They can build. They can learn about marbles and stones and how to build a swimming pool and how to build multi-story houses. I think those motivations are a lot better than saying I have a mansion and things like that.
Definitely. Okay, so for the next video, we're gonna be reacting to Team Boo Trading on his biggest key to success.
I made a millionaire by the age of 25. I definitely don't come from money, and this is one of my biggest keys to success. I am so picky with how I spend my time and who I spend my time with. Like, seriously, if we're not on the same vibe as get money, financial freedom, and a life of prosperity, then we are not at the same table. If I walk into an event I don't like, I'll leave because that time is valuable. If we meet and you are negative or full of gossip, I will not talk to you again because that is not the vibe I'm on. You spend your free time watching Netflix while I spend my free time looking at stock charts and reading entrepreneurship books. And just as your time is important, so is the time you spend consuming content. So if you want to look at content that relates to entrepreneurship, stocks, side hustles, and getting money, you know who to follow.
Yeah, I mean, of course, as a general principle, you want to mix with people who can improve you, right? Preferably everyone you mix with is, let's say if you want to become rich, right?
Yeah.
Preferably everybody you mix with should be richer than you. If you want to get fit, mix with fit people, things like naturally they'll rub off you. Not 100% in my experience, not always the case, but yeah, I think that's...
At least you learn something from them if you're mixing with them for quite a bit of some time. For example, like when I started to mix with you and John, my way of analyzing companies or even thinking about lives is way different if I'm working alone.
100%. And there's that old cliche term, no man is an island, right? However, I think that he later moved on to talk about, you're watching Netflix and I'm looking at stock charts. Yeah, for me, look, so let's say if Bill Gates watches Netflix, how?
Yeah, lor.
Right? I'm sure billionaires watch Netflix, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's not about, so like, it's a bit like alcoholism, right? So people with alcohol problems, the issue is not the alcohol. The issue is something else, right? They're just using the alcohol to fill in for something that is missing. And so if someone is like addicted to Netflix, I can see where his advice makes sense. But if someone is actually just watching Netflix to rest, in fact, it might be a positive, right? Like imagine if you're so-called hustling all day and you
definitely get burnt out.
And we are in the content industry and in fact anything at all, right? Like imagine if you decide to take a rest and you watch Netflix that day, and then you watch something about, let's say, cooking, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly that inspires you to be a cook.
Yeah.
So does that mean that watching Netflix is bad?
Yeah.
No, but however, I do agree with his point. If what he's trying to say is that Netflix is something that you not just watch every day, but you spend a lot of time watching Netflix.
Yeah.
If you watch Netflix, I think like 1, 2, or 3 times a week, a movie, let's say whatever, to unwind and things like that is fine. But if you're binge watching all the time,
then that's going to be a problem.
Then I think he's right in that you are not being efficient, you are not being productive. But how about you?
Personally, I feel that he did mention something about time. So how he spent his time, how he uses his time to basically how does he like manages his day-to-day basis operations. So from his how he explained things, it seems that he's done a lot of productive work. Yeah, and sometimes I'm not sure whether does he feel burnout doing all of this kind of stuff. But I'm pretty sure that he does have his rest, and I'm pretty sure also he watches Netflix as well. Behind the scenes, you never know what do they do, right?
That's true.
So yeah, personally, for my take is that always find a balance, between both hustle and fun stuff. Yeah.
So for our next one that we are reacting to is by Mr. Mikey. He, of course, sharing his thoughts about financial freedom, or to use his words, the path of not having to work again. So the one money hack that the rich don't want you to know. Interesting. Let's watch.
Hack that the rich do not want you to know about. Actually, most wealthy people are happy to tell you how they did it because they know most people won't do it. But for the few that are going to, here it is. When you want to buy something, don't buy it based on the cost and how many dollars you have to pay for it. Buy it based on the interest you need to make off your investments to afford it. For example, something like Netflix is $10 a month. Most people will look at that and go, I can afford $10 a month. The few will invest $2,500, paying them $10 a month in interest. If you always look at purchasing through this lens, you will get to a point where you don't have to work again. Follow to get to financial freedom.
Yeah, what's your immediate reaction?
I think he's somewhat right. It's like you trying to build your portfolio in a way that your dividends can actually pay off your living
Or if you have
expenses.
properties, your rental and whatnot, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I wouldn't say that he's wrong, because that is my goal as well. It's the same as him.
Of course.
Yeah, my end goal is to have my investments to cover all of my living expenses. By doing that, I can do whatever I want. I can, don't need to work also. It's fine also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is true, but of course, yes, you should be building towards it. Yes, we understand we want passive income and all that. But I think if you're someone like starting out, for example, obviously you would have to think in terms of the amount of dollars in your pocket, right? You can't really avoid that. And I guess the big question for me is that how do you achieve it, right? How do you actually reach the point? And there are many things that come into play. But if you, just to end, right? Like what we say is that how do you actually build up enough capital, right? So that you got passive income. Because, the math is very simple, right? In Malaysia especially, right? You could buy dividend stocks for 3 to 4% yield. And if you buy them, if you invest 100,000, that's 3 to 4,000 a year. You spread it out over 12 months. That's how much? Like 500 ringgit, 400 ringgit a month. So it's not enough usually for most people. So that means if you want to make, let's say, 5,000, right, a month, times 60, times 30. So you need 1.8 million. Right?
Yeah.
So the big question is how do you get a 1.8 million, right?
I think it's more towards consistency in building your portfolio. So, for example, in my case, whenever I got my salary, 50% of it will go away straight to investment right away, without even thinking a second thought. Yeah. So that is basically how I, being a discipline with how I spend my money lah. So I'm not sure about how is your method. Hopefully, in maybe the next 20 to 30 years, hopefully by then my portfolio will actually grow to that.
The size. It can make you survive. Yeah. I think for me, the first thing is which a lot of personal finance people don't talk about, is to actually find a way to make as much income as you can. I think you start with that. And the way you do that is by, gaining skills, whether it's networking, things like that. There's obviously a lot to discuss there, but that's the first thing, right, to make money. Then the second thing is to save money. So to save, right, is it's psychologically difficult, but it's relatively easy to understand what you need to do. And in Malaysia specifically, there are roughly, assuming you're single, or at least, or even if you're attached, right, you have no children. I think once children come into play, it's a different calculation. But if you're single and if you're having, or even if you are attached, right, it's just you and your girlfriend, you and your boyfriend, right, there are two costs that you need to look out for. One is your housing, and the second is your transport.
Yes.
If you're able to push this down very low, whether through rental, whether through staying with your parents or whatever, let's say for housing, and then for transport, not buying cars that are above your budget, or even those very high-end cars, rather even those like Toyota and upwards, right? Once you hit that region, you're paying, in the many cases really for your car. And mix it up with a little bit more sharing, right? With apps like Grab and Gojo, for example. Once you get those two right, then getting to your position of 50% is very straightforward already. Or you own a very, very old car that basically costs you very little a month.
So for disclaimer wise, right, the reason why I was able to save 50% of my income is because, one, definitely because I'm single. And the second is because I'm still living with my parents. So all of these expenses, for example, like the rental, utilities or whatnot,
you don't pay.
I don't pay. So that's one of my advantages.
But I think, let's say if you do not have the advantage, right?
Then you have to.
There's still another side of, okay, do you rent or do you buy a house? And I think for most people, especially if you're single, renting is
definitely the option.
It's definitely a way better option. But sometimes it's about the psychology behind it, where people don't want to rent because, it's like, why are you paying the mortgage of your
landlord?
Exactly. But what people don't realize actually is that you are freer than the landlord. If tomorrow you don't like the place, you can chow. But with the landlord, he cannot. If he doesn't like the place, you have to find a buyer, right?
Yeah.
So I think once you handle those two costs, you like for most people, housing should be a third of their budget. Transport maybe 15%, 20%. So if you take those two into account, right, that's 50% of your income already. Now, to your point about staying with your parents, so thanks for sharing that privilege, right? However, I will add this. Will you agree with me? Even a lot of people staying with their parents still cannot save their amount.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, I think it depends on your mindset and also what do you want to achieve in life.
Because even if people have the conditions you have, what happens that, you now have like 50% of your salary that is freed up, so to speak.
Yeah.
But they will replace it with, food,
Entertainment,
whatever. So I think that is something you need to take note of. Even if you have an advantage, you still need to take it, right? That's why they say take advantage. Advantage itself not taken is just there, right? So yeah, any final words for this?
No, nothing much. Yeah.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this sort of videos. By the way, we are doing these videos for fun, and so if you've got like other ideas that maybe you want us to do or anything, right, you can just let us know in the comments or email, right? So yeah, see you guys in the next video.